What a head, son! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through the ultimate guide to the upcoming Game Week 15. Now the penultimate game week before the second wildcard / unlimited transfers, whatever you guys want to say, basically the World Cup, so 2 game weeks to go until we get unlimited transfers. So that's why in this ultimate guide, I'll be taking you through a 2-week punt talking point, as with 2 weeks to go, you guys can kind of dead end your team going to game week 17 and take advantage of 2 lovely fixtures. But don't worry, the usual ultimate guide stuff will still be addressed, the stats list, such the watch list. We're also going to be going over captaincy at the end of the video. That proves to be quite interesting with Haaland potentially injured. I'll also be taking you guys through the best fixtures in terms of an attacking rating over these next 2 fixtures, in case you guys want to choose your own 2-week punts. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now the first talking point I just want to go over is going to be in terms of team news. Now this kind of relates to the press conferences coming up on Thursday and Friday. Please, those are super integral. With injuries to Saka and Haaland at the current moment, really do need some news from those managers on those players. Now in terms of other team news, in terms of the Champions League, I'm recording this on Wednesday evening, so before Man City actually do kick off. So if anything happens in that game, when the Europa League game's happening after I release this video, please just keep that in mind. But the big talking point about team news in terms of Game Week 15 is going to be what you guys see on screen right now. So there's going to be 4 fixtures happening straight after the deadline. So yes, a slightly different deadline, but please also remember that 5 o'clock is simply South African time. Don't recall it if you guys live in another country. But we could potentially be getting team news about 8 different teams. Now we might not want team news about all of those. I think Leeds, Bournemouth, probably not, but Man City is definitely the one that I'm going to keep my eyes on, because I'm looking to bring in Phil Foden and potentially Captain Haaland. So what I would advise you guys to do is that, let's just say Pep doesn't really give us too much information as usual in his press conferences. We might still get some early team news to see if Haaland's starting, maybe even a Phil Foden. So what I'm personally doing is I'm holding off on the transfers for as long as possible. Yes, you guys can make 1 or 2 switches if you want to bring in a Callum Wilson, for example, 100% fine for someone like a Mitrovic or a Tony. But in terms of taking out or bringing in Man City assets, I'd wait as long as possible. So to kind of wrap up, make sure that you guys watch all the press conferences on Thursday or Friday, or update you guys in my final thoughts or final team selection video, as well as the deadline stream coming up 1 hour before the deadline. In that deadline stream, hopefully you do get some more information about potential lineups that will cement our moves. But now going on to the first usual talking point of our ultimate guides, this is going to be the stats / the watch list. And if you guys are new to this series, basically what we're going to be doing is going over the top 5 teams in terms of attack, defense, and also the bottom 5 teams in terms of attack and defense as well. The reason we are doing this, for example, let's take the attacking ratings, the top 5 teams. You guys want to target these 5 teams for your transfers. These attackers are performing pretty well, playing in teams that are scoring goals, whereas if we look at the bottom 5 teams, I would target defenders that are playing these opposition. So that'll make more sense as we go through the teams. For example, let's go over the attacking ratings first. The stat I've chosen is going to be XG non-penalty. As you guys know, don't really trust the penalties that much, as they aren't super sustainable. So when looking at XG non-penalty, we actually have a switch up in the first team. It's going to be none other than Liverpool with 1.96. So how does this kind of make sense after the Leeds fixture, losing to Leeds 2-1, after losing to Nottingham Forest 1-0, but they still are top of the rankings. So they've edged Man City by just a close margin, and that just shows you that the stats are still looking pretty strong for those Liverpool attackers. Now upcoming fixtures against Spurs and Southampton. Spurs have been conceding quite a few recently, not playing at their optimal form, so this game could be quite an interesting one. Then with Southampton at home at Anfield before the World Cup, pretty sure that Mo Salah want to put on a good show, and that's why I'm personally going to keep him. Now we mentioned Man City already, so let's just bring them up here. 1.92, so 0.04 lower XG than Liverpool, but I think it's going to dramatically change over these next 2 game weeks. The reason for that is obviously those 2 fixtures. Fulham at home, Brentford at home, both 2 defenses aren't too great, and I can see Man City scoring a couple of goals over both of them. But we will be addressing Man City more in the best fixtures kind of talking point, but spoiler alert, bring Man City assets into your team. The next team is going to be Arsenal with 1.90, Chelsea and Wolves up next though. From a defensive point of view, not probably the best fixtures on paper, but if you can still see Arsenal scoring against them. So would I be bringing Arsenal assets in? Probably not. I think that kind of game week of 14 was the game week to bring them in on, but if Saka and Martinelli are going to be playing these next 2, it's not the end of the world. Now we're going to come up with a team that's kind of super hot property, Almiron, Wilson. It's going to be Newcastle with 1.66 XG. Now Southampton and Chelsea at home up next. I do favour that Chelsea fixture because it's going to be a home game for Newcastle, and from an attacking point of view, they're putting on some good stats. So what is nice to see here is that the stats are backing up the performances, so Newcastle are performing pretty well, and that's why Wilson and Almiron are looking like even better options, because the points are meeting the stats. Then we have Brighton, a team that's also had a pretty good start to this Premier League season, 1.5 XG non-penalty per game, and with Wolves away and Villa at home up next, I think I can improve on that. Now we'll be talking about those Brighton assets a little bit later on in terms of kind of 2-week punts. Trossard's a favourite of mine currently, and this just shows you that Brighton are attacking pretty well. So I do think any of these 5 teams you have to really worry about. If you're going to bring in these options from a stats point of view, look pretty good and should get you FPL points. But now going on to the bad side of it, we're going to go on to the 5 worst XG non-penalty performers. And these are going to be teams to target from a defensive point of view. Now the first team, for example, is going to be Bournemouth, 0.86 XG per game. Leeds away up next and Everton at home. I do think they still could do some damage there. Now I might be a little bit biased because I do own a Solanke already, but he's probably the only attacker you'd go for from Bournemouth. Then we have Leicester, which is a little bit of an anomaly here because they have been actually scoring a few goals, but the XG non-penalty hasn't been that high. That just shows you that the chances they're scoring are small chances. So 0.83, but quite a step up from Bournemouth, and Everton away and West Ham away. A little bit of tougher games on paper. Now Nottingham Forest come up next with 0.85, even though they did score against Liverpool, have been struggling to score over this season, and Brentford home and Crystal Palace at home though could improve that. So yes, you guys could go for kind of a Nottingham Forest attacker, but I can't really pinpoint one that I really want. We then have Wolves, a team that we know are struggling to score at the current moment, 0.89 XG, Brighton at home and Arsenal at home up next though, super tough fixtures, and I can't really recommend any of their assets. I guess same could be said about the next team. It's going to be Southampton with 0.89 as well, Newcastle at home though, and Liverpool away though. Liverpool's definitely the easier fixture. Who would have kind of thought that 15 game weeks into the Premier League season that we'd be saying Newcastle is a better fixture than Liverpool? I know that I wouldn't, but maybe you Newcastle fans predicted it. So the 5 teams that you guys see on screen, if your defenders are showing these fixtures, you're probably going to be quite happy because a clean sheet should be locked in. But now switching it up to the defensive rating, and now we're going to go on to XG conceded. Now you guys can also look at kind of X clean sheets. That's kind of the expected amount of clean sheets that these teams should be showing, but I generally just prefer XG conceded. Now the first team there has had a rock solid defense this Premier League season. It's going to be Arsenal with 0.8, and with Chelsea away and Wolves away up next, they should probably keep a clean sheet on 1 or 2 of those. Those Arsenal defenders are always super consistent, so if you guys want to go for a Gabriel, a Ben White, 100%, but I do think there are more exciting picks out there. Those picks are probably going to come from the Man City assets, 0.81, so just a little bit more XG conceded than Arsenal, but Fulham at home and Brentford at home should be clean sheets in my opinion, and also attacking returns. So I would target a Man City defender. If you guys don't own one, a Cancelo's a great shout, and it'll be interesting to see if he is benched tonight in the Champions League. Then we come up with Brighton, a team that has had a great start to the season, in the top 5 XG non-penalty, in the top 5 XG conceded, and with Wolves away and Aston Villa at home, I think there could be potentially clean sheets in both of those games. Talking about kind of top 5 teams, we're going to have Newcastle yet again, so Brighton, Newcastle, definitely the best performers probably of this Premier League season alongside Arsenal and Man City. Now the XG conceded is 1.06, and with a fixture up coming in Southampton away, that should be locked in. So I'm quite happy as a Nick Pope and a Trippier owner there in GameWeek 15, as that fixture looks prime for defensive returns. Then against Chelsea at home, who kind of knows, it is a home fixture, so I am holding my thumbs. We then have Spurs up next with 1.08. Now that Liverpool at home game, are they going to show this defensive form that they've shown over these past couple game weeks? Who kind of knows, this might be quite an open game. They then have Leeds at home, and Leeds are quite an attacking side, so I wouldn't be relying on too many clean sheets for Spurs assets in the next 2. But generally, if you guys do target these 5 teams from a defensive point of view, the clean sheets should be locked in. And now going on to the bottom 5 teams, and these are teams to target from an attacking point of view. Let's for example take the first team, Fulham, with 1.89 XG conceded per game. Now you guys can understand why I want to bring in a Man City asset and captain them. So Man City away up next, terrible. I think that XG is going to go through the roof. Then they have United at home, also quite a strong side at the current moment. I wouldn't keep faith in that Fulham defense. Same could be said about the next team, Nottingham Forest. So yes, another newly promoted side, which I guess is a little bit expected. Brentford at home and Crystal Palace at home. So if you guys do own Ivan Toney, that's quite a big one that he's going to miss this through suspension. Now there might be an argument to kind of keep Wilfried Zaha for Game Week 16 when Nottingham Forest do face Crystal Palace, but I don't know if I have the patience for that. And I'll continue this bad Liverpool form. They're going to be the 3rd worst defense in the Prem based on XG conceded with 1.57. Now Spurs up next, Southampton at home. Probably Southampton at home should be quite a good fixture for them, but FE Spurs away is a bad one. So if you guys do own the Liverpool assets, I'd probably just keep faith because Game Week 16 might be where you guys finally get a clean sheet. We're then going to move on to one of my favorite defenses, Crystal Palace. I've been saying this through every single game week that I hope that Crystal Palace will improve. They're simply not improving, and they're currently at 1.54 XG conceded. Now they do have West Ham away up next and then Nottingham Forest, so there could be a clean sheet on the cards for them, but with these stats, I'm not too hopeful. Then finally, we're going to complete our newly promoted sides. Bournemouth are entering into the bottom 5 teams, 1.52 XG conceded, and with Leeds up next and Everton at home, you might want to target one of these assets. So you guys can kind of see, we've got the newly promoted sides, then Crystal Palace, who are kind of anomaly, but the big anomaly is going to be obviously Liverpool, who are having a terrible defensive start to the season. But if you guys do target these 5 defenses for your attackers, you should probably be getting some FPL points. Now switching it up and going on to our best fixture talking point, and I'm going to only relate this to Game Week 15 and Game Week 16. As I mentioned in the introduction, the World Cup comes up after Game Week 16, unlimited transfers, or a wildcard, whatever way you guys want to describe it, but you're going to completely change your team come Game Week 17. So what this allows you to do is take some 1 week, some 2 week punts, dead end your team. Game Week 17 is going to be a completely fresh team, so take advantage of the next 2 fixtures. So what I went and did was I went over to Fantasy Football Fix, went to the attacking rating system. Now those are going to be the teams that you guys see on screen right now. Now there might be some other teams, so comment them down below, any kind of teams that you guys are targeting that I haven't showcased in this talking point. Now going on to the first team here, no brainer, it's the Man City assets, Fulham at home and Brentford at home. Brentford have actually improved to kind of a mid-tier defense. That's what you guys will see, it's a white fixture, whereas Fulham are simply terrible. So I would definitely target these Man City assets. If you guys don't own a triple up, definitely get on that bandwagon. And for me, the best captain's going to Game Week 15. Now what I will be doing is I'll highlight some options from these teams that you guys could go for, some 1 week punts, some 2 week punts if you guys want to go for them. So in terms of Man City, everyone kind of owns Cancelo, everyone owns a Haaland, so the next option will be between Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden, depending on your price bracket. So for me, for example, I don't want to lose Mo Salah, so Foden is going to be the man for me as long as it is starting Game Week 15. So I guess now you guys can see why I desperately want some team use, because if Phil Foden's starting, I'll bring him in, otherwise I have to shift my team around to go for KDB. Now the next team is going to be Everton, a team that we mentioned with Calvert-Lewin. I think the defense could also be targetable in the next 2 fixtures, Leicester at home and Bournemouth away. Now you saw with Leicester at home, their attacking stats aren't that great, so from a defensive point of view, you might be licking your lips, then Bournemouth as well are pretty terrible. So in terms of defenders, you guys can go for any of their kind of fullbacks. I see Patterson's back on the pitch. Is he going to start every game? Who kind of knows? But you might want to go for someone a little bit more solid like a Tarkowski. But in terms of the attackers, any of their front 3, Damari Gray, Anthony Gordon or DCL should be good assets to go for and mega differentials. Then heading up with Nottingham Forest and against Brentford at home and Crystal Palace at home. Unfortunately, I can't recommend any of their assets because I can't really pinpoint one of their attackers that I would go for, but you guys could put some suggestions in the comments down below. So I'm not going to spend too long on Nottingham Forest, unfortunately. I'm going to go on to the next team, West Ham, Crystal Palace and Leicester at home, 2 home fixtures, which is super nice to see. Now you guys know that at home teams generally do better, so that's why West Ham are quite an attractive option. So if you guys want to go for a Skamaka or maybe even a Jared Bowen, they look like great assets to go for. We're then going to continue on to a team that yet again has 2 home fixtures as well. It's Liverpool and Leeds for Spurs. So I do know that Heung-min Son unfortunately might have got injured in the Champions League game yesterday, so please make sure that he is back for full fitness if you guys do want to go for him. But the simple best option to go for is to be Harry Kane if you guys have that money. I can see him scoring against both Liverpool and Leeds and might even be a Captaincy option in Game Week 16. Then in terms of the defenders, you guys know the story, Perisic and Doherty, they are rotation risk, but if you guys can nail 2 starts, definitely look at them. Then the final team is more of a kind of 1 week punt in my opinion. It's me the Leeds assets against Bournemouth at home in Game Week 15. So if we get news that Bamford starts, Rodrigo starts, Sinistera, that sort of thing, they could be all assets to go for. I would target the attack only, not really the defense. Then unfortunately Game Week 16 they do have Spurs away, and that's why for me they are a 1 week punt, so you guys can have some fun with that. But these are going to be the top 6 teams in terms of fantasy football fixes attacking ratings. Let me know if there are any teams that I missed out on, and I might cover them in the next talking point, which will be the 1 week punts. So going on to those 2 week punts, and the reason I've gone for 2 week punts over 1 week punts is because we do have 2 weeks left of the season, so for me it makes more sense to spend those valuable transfers on 2 game weeks instead of 1. But don't worry, in the Ultimate Guide next week we'll be discussing all those 1 week punts, all those differentials you guys could go for before the wildcard break. So I'll be detailing 3 transfers that I would potentially make for these kind of 2 week punts that are super differential. Now the first option I want to go over is going to be Marcus Rashford from Manchester United, Aston Villa away and also Fulham away, but those 2 away games are simply outstanding. Now yes, Aston Villa might improve under Emery, but he still is kind of new in the job. The formation might be a little bit hit or miss, and with Manchester United playing a good brand of football, I think they should do quite comfortably here. But definitely the fixtures to target is going to be the Game Week 61 Fulham away. You guys saw the worst defense in the Prem at the moment, and I don't think that Rashford could do particularly well in that game week. Now in terms of price, 6.6 is super cheap, so you guys should be able to afford him. But in terms of ownership, he actually is owned by 17.4%. So yes, might not be the best kind of differential to go for, but in terms of the high ranks, I still think he carries quite a lot of weight. Now in terms of other Manchester United options, I can't really go for any of the others. Bruno Fernandes is a bit too expensive for me, and Antony, he might be playing, he might be not. And that's why for me, Rashford's the best asset to look at. Next up is going to be a player from Brighton, Trossard. We mentioned that Brighton attack is looking so strong, a top 5 attack in the Prem at the moment, and that's one of the best attackers, is definitely a shoo-in for me. Now Wolves away and Aston Villa at home are 2 good games on paper, and with Brighton attacking the way that they are currently, I think they should score on both of them. Now 6.9 million and 22.1% is a little bit of a higher ownership, but Trossard is still mega differential in the higher ranks. Now I'm saying this and I sold him about 2 game weeks ago, so if I'm willing to bring him back in, you guys should also consider it. Then the final option to go for definitely is going to be our mega differential of this video. It's going to be Calvert-Lewin with fixtures against Leicester at home and Bournemouth away. Now at 7.9 million and with 0.8% ownership, you guys can understand why he's going to be a mega differential. You just have to hope that he starts, plays well, and gets you a few goals. So I guess easier said than done, but Everton have 2 lovely fixtures coming up, and I guess if you guys want to take a massive punt, he's definitely an option to look at. Now unfortunately with Calvert-Lewin, if you guys are looking to make an attacking transfer or a forward transfer, Callum Wilson's definitely the option to kind of look at, but he's more popular and that's why I haven't gone for him in my 2 week punts. So unfortunately, I don't think too many managers will actually go for Calvert-Lewin. Callum Wilson's kind of out there, has better stats, a better team, might be worse fixtures, but I do trust them more. So yes, if you guys do want to take a massive punt, go for DCL, but I don't think most options will go for Callum Wilson. But the nice thing about FPL is there's so many other assets you guys could potentially look at, so drop it in the comments down below who your 2-week punt is, but let's keep it quiet so the ownership doesn't rise too much. Now the final talking point of this video, as we usually go over the ultimate guides or conclude the ultimate guides, is going to be the Captaincy Debate. Now the first big debate obviously is going to be all about Erling Haaland. For my own personal team, if he is going to start, or we get news that he's going to be back in training, going to start against Fulham, I definitely will be captaining him. But if Haaland is going to be out or missing, it definitely opens up the debate to go for. But the team and player that I would recommend going for if Haaland's going to be out is going to be Kevin De Bruyne from Man City. Now what I will say is that basically any Man City option to go for is going to be a great captain, whether it be Phil Foden, a Mahrez, a Cancelo, even an Edison if you want to go from. As long as we do get news that they do start, they're great assets. So for me, whatever Man City attacker that you guys do own, I would captain, whether it be Haaland or another asset. I just think that Fulham at home game is too hard to ignore. The worst defense in the Prem at the moment. Man City, the second best attack, basically the first best attack. What more can you kind of ask for? But if you guys do want to go slightly more differential, unfortunately this week, there's not too many other attacking options that I would potentially look at. So for maybe Callum Wilson against Southampton away. So Callum Wilson has the form. His team are playing well at the moment. He's playing well. And that's why I think that he could be a nice differential captain. So the way I'm also looking at Callum Wilson is that if I'm recommending him as a potential captain, he's definitely a good transfer in, and that's why if you guys watch my team selection, I'm actually looking at him. But I genuinely think that you can't ignore this fixture, Man City vs Fulham. Whatever Man City attacker you guys own, whether it be Haaland or someone else, I would go for them. Even consider Cancelo if you guys don't own an attacker. But yet again, you guys can let me know in the comments down below. You guys always surprise me. You whip out options that I didn't even think about for Captaincy. So if you guys are going to go Maverick, let me know in the comments down below who you're going for. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please like if you didn't subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Tomorrow I'll be releasing my kind of final team selection after you hopefully get some news in the press conferences on Thursday and Friday. Otherwise, I'll see you in the deadline stream coming up on Saturday, 1 hour before the deadline, where hopefully we'll get that Man City team sheet. But I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.